Oilerslive Studio. Subscribe or follow today.
Hey, it's Michael here for another Tuesday of Oilers Live. I thought it was going to be a slow night tonight, but no, it turns out some things happened today in Oilers land and oil country that might make it for some interesting discussion. I've got as my guest none other than Reid Wilkins, the host of Inside Sports on 630 CHED, who I believe was front and center for today's happenings with the
That's
Oilers.
not true. I was there. I definitely was not front and center.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think.
Fair enough. Yeah, maybe you don't want to be. Yeah. Hey, I thanks for joining me, and we got you for the first half hour, and then following you, I've got ToughCallPod, which Reid, I don't know if you've seen any of his videos. But ToughCallPod podcast, his name's Josh. He joined us on the Heavy Hockey Network just recently. But he does these neat little videos as if he were the Department of Player Safety.
Oh, okay. I want to watch those then.
Yeah,
they're probably very funny.
Absolutely. And
I love those videos.
Yeah,
they're so terrible. They're good.
Well, he does it in the same style, which is great, but he's got a system that he's set up that he feels is obviously superior to what they're doing today, because sometimes it doesn't feel like they've got a system at all. He'll take plays that were iffy or suspension worthy, and he'll do the breakdown and let you know what, if under his system, would they have been a 2-game suspension, a 3-game suspension. I really love it.
I'll have to check those out. That sounds like it could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think it's kind of, this is obviously, it's a fan-based podcast. I don't know if I want to align myself with media tonight. No, just kidding. But there's all of these things today, obviously with everything that's available to viewers and people consuming media and that the NHL and everyone around that could maybe take some lessons. There's got to be people out there like Josh, right, who've got some good ideas that the NHL can learn from. I don't know if they do. I'm sure they must at some level listen to what people have to say, and there's just so many smart people out there. So I don't know if there's any examples. There's got to be some examples of. Look at Steve Dangle, right? He was. He was a fan-based podcaster. So hey, people are gonna. You had the luxury of having Jim Matheson on your program today. Yep. Which people can go anywhere you get podcasts. 630 CHED has an aggregate podcast that you can listen to, and you can find that segment there. It's actually a pretty quick segment. It's about 15 minutes. You said something which rings true. I mean, for media around the league, it's your job to tell the story, not so much be the story. But today, Jim Matheson was the story, or part of the story anyway. Is this something that has been going on for a while? Like that you could, Stauffer kind of hinted at it today that he expected some fireworks today. I mean, is this something you expected would come to a head eventually?
Not really. I certainly knew that there was tension between Leon and Jim. I wouldn't have necessarily predicted it would have finally boiled over or known what moment it would have been. But yes, there's a history between Leon Draisaitl and Jim Matheson. And, Leon has, I'm sure, I've heard it in a lot of post-game scrums, especially. And if, just to explain to people, if they don't know, I am never there post-game. Obviously, when they're on the road, I don't travel. Yeah. And when they're at home, I'm not down in the Hall of Fame room or wherever because I'm on air with Rob doing Overtime Open Line. So I'm never there for those. So I'm here. A lot of times I'm hearing them for the first time, like people listening to Ched might be. So there have been times where Rob and I have kind of looked at each other like, oh man, like Leon really doesn't like Jim. Now he has done it with other people. He has done it to me in the past with a short answer or a dismissive comment. And I can even tell you a story about that if you want later. So I was certainly aware, though, that for whatever reason, and I don't know what it is, and to take Jim at face value, he doesn't know what it is, that Leon is especially perturbed with Jim. And I think that has obviously made Jim especially perturbed with Leon. So was I aware that there was tension there? Yes. Could I have specifically predicted or known that something was going to happen exactly today? Well, no. I mean, that's, how do you know when something like that is going to happen? But something has been going on there. I don't think it's comfortable. I think both guys in certain respects didn't look very good. It shouldn't reach that point, in my opinion. Now Jim has over double the experience I have in broadcasting, and 5 or 6 times when it comes to just the NHL. So, okay, he decided to handle it that way. I just think this should have been cut off at the pass at some point. Either the Oilers media relations staff steps in, or maybe Jim did say something to the media relations staff. Like if it got that severe with me and a player, I think that I would, first of all, try to talk to the player. We don't have that luxury now because we can't go into the dressing rooms. I've had little incidents with players, or where you want to go up to a guy maybe and clarify and say, hey, I think my question might have sounded this way given your reaction, but this is actually what I was saying. So my bad if it was a poor choice of words. And sometimes the guy might say, oh, I actually misunderstood, or yeah, I was a little mad at you in that moment, but now looking back, I understand you were doing your job. We're good. Like I've never had anything last. So that would be concerning to me if a player was repeatedly dismissing me while seeming not to be that harsh towards other media members. So I in that case, I would have at some point, I hope, requested or said to the PR staff, okay, I perceive there's a problem. Is this player mad at something I specifically did? Because I'm not aware of it. So maybe point it out and I can go back and listen to it, or we can talk about it.
Yep.
Does the player just need to get me into a room for 5 minutes and tell me to fuck off to my face? Okay, maybe that needs to happen, and then we move on.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But you hope things like that in a professional environment at the highest level of hockey would not reach this point today. That would have been my hope. Now, who knows? Maybe 3 years from now, we're going to be talking about me having this sort of a back and forth with a player. Who knows? They're but I just, it was tense. Like I was like, holy crap, this is actually happening. Like they're actually going back and forth with each other. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I also listened to Stauffer and Speck today. They got into it, and great radio because they didn't agree on it. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to the two of them.
I heard a fair chunk of it. I didn't hear the whole thing because I was still at the rink for a while.
I thought that Spector brought up something that's interesting, and he's not always, Speck is not always popular in these types of incidents with the fans. They get on him for maybe defending, the media or whatever, but he said some really great things today. And one is, this is not something that the Oilers really need right now, right? Like the conversation with the team should be around, what they're going to do to get better, right? Instead, there's a bit of a media frenzy, and it's not just in Edmonton anymore, right? Like it's across the league. Everybody knows that Draisaitl got mad at Jim Matheson, and I mean, Pissy was trending at one point today on Twitter.
Yeah, which is hilarious.
It is hilarious. I mean, this is it was clearly, I mean, maybe not so clear because everybody's got their own interpretation. To me, it was clearly brought on by Draisaitl, but then the question itself didn't need to be asked by Matheson. So I think they can both take equal blame. Does this?
So just quickly, and I know you had me on to ask you questions. What specifically bothered you the most? Because to me, there's two things that escalated it. Leon saying, everything.
Yeah.
And then obviously Jim shooting back with the pissy comment.
Yeah,
like to me,
it doesn't happen if Leon doesn't.
If those two things don't happen, or even one of them happens, then maybe it doesn't escalate, or one guy is obviously the villain in this situation. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't think it escalates at all if Draisaitl doesn't say, you know everything, right? And
but maybe it would have. I mean, maybe
yeah.
Jim just wanted to slap him no matter what. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, I think that might have caught him off guard. I mean, Jim's been around long enough that, and he's been around longer than most of us have been alive, right? Doing this, and he's asked it's probably not the first time he's been, in some type of altercation.
Oh, for sure, sure. Like I think, I'm trying to think. I mean, when this happens, of course, I think, okay, what if it got that bad for me? Like, I think if a player actually said that to me, like, you know everything, and again, like in that situation, that's not in the dressing room anymore, right? I mean, everything's live streamed when we're in that room.
Yeah.
We can't go up to players and talk one-on-one. I mean, I don't know. Like Jim on my show said he felt the need to stand up for himself. I think for me, I might have been so shocked and probably a little bit pissed off. I just would have, like, I don't look for conflict. So maybe Jim would have thought it was weak, but I might have just thought to myself, fuck it, I'm not talking to this guy, and just gone and sat down. I just would have thought, if he's not going to give me the time of day, I'm not going to press him. Whatever. I can ask questions of somebody who's going to give me answers. Or I probably wouldn't have said you're pissy. Or I might have just said, oh, like, just to clarify, Leon, I actually don't think I know everything. So I hope you don't mind that I'm asking you about your job.
Yeah, and I think you and Jim are two completely different people, so I'm not sure it's getting to that point. Here's an interesting thing, because I've heard this going today, whether it's on Twitter or otherwise, is the question itself. Like, do you have a problem with Jim's question at all? Because we got somebody on Facebook says what bothers me is that the question was pointed at Draisaitl blaming somebody, and that was never going to happen anyway. I'm kind of siding on it's a fine question, right? And whether or not, it's up to Draisaitl whether he wants to blame somebody or not. Obviously, that might have been what Jim was looking for. He didn't get the question, but he could have turned it on himself as well and said, I can't speak for anybody else. So I'm part of the team and I need to be better or whatever, right? Like, these guys take media training. They know how to answer those.
I'm not sure Leon does. Maybe this wouldn't have happened if he did, but I think that's a really good question. And I have several things to say about that. And look, we're always thinking of angles and stuff to ask and how can I make it interesting and how can it possibly be a little different. I guess I'm speaking personally, especially with my show being on towards the end of the news cycle, right? Can I have a little something that is maybe a little different or a little more insight or a little personal tidbit on a player? So, like, we're all thinking of stuff, and I have found sometimes you sort of have to gauge the player, and sometimes the blunt questions are the best. Sometimes it might just be good, even if you sound like a bit of a dick, to just say, you know what, the last 3 games have gone really poorly. Like, what is going on? Like, sometimes it might be that simple and that blunt where maybe you don't sound that polite. Now, I understand people are I've seen some of the comments that people think, well, Jim was trying to get Leon to blame the goalies. I don't know if he was, but like you said, Leon has a choice still in how he answers that, right? Yeah. So he said it's everything, which he knows is not a sufficient clip or a sufficient answer to just say that in 2 seconds. So how's he going to go? And you referenced it. He could have taken it all on himself, or maybe he takes it all on him and Connor, because Connor probably wouldn't have cared, or he just said, you know what? I'm the second leading scorer wherever he is in the NHL, and I have only this many points in the last few games. Our power play is dropped off, and I play every single second on the power play, and our PK has dropped off, and I take faceoffs and kill penalties. So I'm not looking at other guys in the room. I'm looking at myself. And if my game improves, everything, like, he could have said that, but he didn't feel like it. Now, would have he answered anybody that way, or was it just Jim? I guess we'll never know. I don't even know how many people have watched the entire scrum.
Yeah.
Because some people might not be even aware. Somebody else asked 2 questions before Jim Matheson. Do you know who that was?
No, I don't. I haven't watched the whole thing.
It was me.
I've heard there's okay. There you go.
It was me.
Yeah,
it was me. So I won't say anything about what I asked. People can go watch and deem for themselves if they think my questions are idiotic or appropriate or bland. The other thing is, okay, so what's one thing I always hear? Well, you guys ask too many softballs. Why don't you just go up to them and ask them why they're so shitty?
Yeah.
Why don't you get Draisaitl an interview and tell him he's not playing good enough and that he has to explain himself to the fans? Why don't you ask Dave Tippett if he thinks he should be fired, which is absurd, obviously.
Yeah.
But okay, so part of me feels like, and look, if people think I'm defending Jim or defending the media, my word to you is too fucking bad, because nobody else is going to do it. Nobody else is going to do it. So if I'm a member of the media, I'm going to give you my perspective. I don't think it's defending the media. I think it's giving you the perspective of someone working in the media, which is why you've had me on the show.
Yeah.
So that's part of my challenge back to the people who criticize us today. It's like, okay, well, what do you want? Every day it's too many softballs. And then today it's like, well, no, not like, yeah, tough questions, but not that one, not to that player. So, I mean, so part of me is like, okay, I can't win. Yeah. I am wrong with the audience no matter what I do. And I accept that. Like, that's fine. I don't want anybody to feel sorry for me, but I'm just saying, it's pretty hard to operate off a standard for the audience when the standard fluctuates based on their emotional reaction to what they've just seen.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right? Like you talk about that because I've heard that too. I'll give Stauffer full credit. He reads everything that comes into the text line, and sometimes I think, I might not have read that myself, but. And it's true. I see on Twitter. I mean, they get pissed off at fans get pissed off at media for not asking the hard questions, and today's a good example. I wouldn't say that was a particularly hard question. It wasn't answered the way maybe that Jim wanted it to be answered, which is fine. I mean, I can see these things going. What I'm kind of curious about though is, what does this say? Like, is this talk about? And this is maybe the part that. Spector was trying to get at today, which is it's not good for the Oilers, right? Like the fact that Draisaitl even gets down that path, what's it say about the mental condition or mental state of this team right now, right? I know, I tried to listen to, a little bit about Little View and Rob on there, but I think he said today on Inside Sports, he talked about that a little bit, which was, you're in a slump, right? Like things aren't going well, right? Like this is... I mean, nothing's going to be good right now, but is it even maybe worse than what we think?
I don't know. Like obviously, it shows frustration. Yeah. Now, again, I think some of it is because of the reporter involved. Though I'm gonna tell another Leon story here.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure. I guess part of me is. It's good that Leon's pissed off. I mean, you don't want them to be complacent or happy with losing.
Fair statement.
I think he feels Leon's one of those guys you can kind of see when he's frustrated, even when he plays, right? I had a friend text me today who said Leon's pissed off and I love it. So she's not too much worried about how Leon feels or Matheson feels. She's just glad that Leon might be angry when he's on the ice for the next game, right? Because she wants to see a win. Here's part of though what I would say is an issue for me, and I'm going to tell you something here I've never told anybody. I was going to tell it on my show tonight, and I kind of ran out of time, and we got going into other things. So my perception of Leon Draisaitl is that throughout his career, not just today, there are times he can be a little dismissive and a little standoffish with questions. Mm-hmm. And I sympathize with the fact that he was a human being and he's probably asked a lot of bullshit questions that he's answered before. Fair enough. Absolutely fair enough. So a few years ago, I think it was 17-18 because Talbot was still here. Well, it would have had to been because I don't think it was the playoff year. I think it was the following year.
Yeah.
So, and Talbot obviously hadn't been traded yet. So they had a couple of overtime games in a row. 3-on-3, obviously. Both were really exciting. I think they won one and lost one. And it was just, those great 3-on-3 overtimes, end-to-end, great saves, long passes, odd man rushes. And so, at one of the subsequent practices, I thought, I want to try and get some good 3-on-3 overtime. So I go in there and I was like, I mentioned to the PR staff, I'd like my ID, and I said, I'd like to grab Talbot and Draisaitl. Yeah, it should be fine. So I talked to Talbot, probably 3 minutes, and, really good. He was really into it. He talked about, I don't remember everything, but, keeping if you make a save, you keep the puck alive, you try to lob it down the ice. When do you take a face off? And, even the goal that was scored on him, he talked about that play. And then I talked to Leon, and I kind of, had told him the idea, and he's like, okay, let's go ahead. And I asked him a couple questions and we're one-on-one, in the locker room, and very, very short answers, very non-descriptive, like, not making eye contact with me, like looking away, like not saying much. And I was like, Jesus, like, I'm just thinking, okay, I gotta try to engage him somehow. Right.
Yeah.
And then I thought, okay, I'll just try to make it a little more conversational with my third idea. So instead of asking like a question, I kind of just sort of said a couple sentences, thinking, okay, maybe that just will prompt them to get into the conversation. And he goes, yeah, sure. And I was like, oh, okay. So I was just like, all right, well, thanks, Leon. Thanks. And he walks away. So this is the thing I would say. Yes, things are going poorly. Yes, Jim, may have been going after him a bit or trying to provoke a response. However, I was in a complete fluff situation with Leon, where he sort of treated me the same way and just did not want to engage. So there's a little bit of currency perhaps built up. Currency is not the right word, but there's some water under the bridge here with Leon where the water's been pretty cold, so that's, and again, I'm trying hard not to too much take a side today, but that's a personal experience that I have where I was in a situation that should not have been combative with Leon Draisaitl or negative. And he just was completely disinterested in talking to me for even 2 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, and now that you say it, I mean, I can think back. I've watched a lot of his post games and a lot of his pressers. That's not a unique response for him.
But now,
right?
when he's good, I should say, when he's good, he's really, really good.
Yeah.
Like when he's engaged, he's an excellent quote.
He's off the cuff sometimes, right? Like no more so than, after the game, which I was at, where he goes, the fans are fucking phenomenal, right? Like that's, that's exactly what you want from a guy 95% of the time, something raw. Like you'll never get that from Connor, but then, yeah, it does seem like when he does get a little dismissive at times. It's kind of an interesting story because it doesn't surprise me in the least, but maybe puts a little bit of context and maybe tells me, and you can tell me if I'm out to lunch or not, but maybe this is no story at all, right? Like, maybe it's
it probably won't be after a while. Yeah. And look, another thing is it does not bother me at all for an athlete to show personality.
Yeah.
Like when he gave
it's great, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Like when he gave the, when he laughed, he's like, you expect me to score 82 goals? That's not happening. Like that was genuine. Like that was him kind of being like, oh, come on. Don't even like, I get it. It just seems when he doesn't want to do it, he won't fake it. He won't give you anything. It's just he's not doing it. So that's fine. I mean, when you're done, Michael, I encourage you, go listen to my questions and his responses.
Yeah.
I mean, I certainly don't think I was being combative. I would just be curious to know what you think.
Yeah, and look, I mean, in any type of slump, anything you ask is going to be viewed a little bit combative, I think, right? I mean, there's no fluff questions. Before you go, I got to ask, Perlini. I mean, this guy, like,
Yeah, he might be hurt, by the way.
that's what I heard. Yeah. So, is there any news on that? But
There isn't. I mean, Tip thought he was okay.
Yeah,
He didn't look
okay.
comfortable going off the ice. And like I was watching the practice, like they were down to my right and the puck went into the corner and he was kind of by the face-off dot. And then I kind of catch out on the corner of my eye, like he's hobbling off the ice. And I was like, wait a minute, he wasn't just in the corner. He didn't just get hit. And I can't remember who I was sitting by. I was like, did something? And they're like, no, I was sitting by Mooner. And I was like, okay, so he didn't get hit. Like, did the puck hit him on the way to the corner? Did he take I don't know if he hit a rut or something, but he struggled to get to the bench and then kind of got helped down the tunnel. So I don't know. I guess we'll find out tomorrow.
Yeah, or tomorrow, I guess. Yeah, they'll probably be practicing tomorrow. That's that'll be interesting because the last thing this team needs is more injuries or COVID protocol.
Yeah, no kidding.
Before you go, Oil Kings.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Is this for real? Like, is this going to be a good run at the Memorial Cup, or I mean, this is
I hope so. I mean, geez, the last 2 years they could have done it.
Are right, yeah.
Yeah, they're a good team. I don't get to see them a lot in person, but I mean, another huge trade yesterday with Vancouver. I mean, what do they got? Like 5, well, I guess 6 World Juniors if you count Demick, right? So, yeah, I mean, they're obviously going for it. They won't have a lot of draft picks the next 2 or 3 years, but they'll just get them back from the teams who are at their peak, I assume.
Yeah.
To trade players, but they're I mean, the last time I haven't been able to go to a game since the Teddy Bear toss game.
Yeah,
and Neighbors scored a great goal in that game, and
nice.
They're fun. They're a lot of fun. I mean, the Winnipeg's up there too, so it might be tough to get out of the conference, but they're for real for sure.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. I'm a big Oil Kings fan. I a season ticket holder out here in Halifax for the Mooseheads. And so I've been watching a lot of junior hockey out here. But the Mooseheads right now, with the restrictions in Nova Scotia, are kind of out. They haven't played for a while, so it's been kind of an off year, obviously, for that.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you giving me some time. It's some good insight into how things happened today. I did get one comment about your question. Your question to Leon were great. Answers were reasonable.
All right. Well,
so maybe
I'm 1 for 1. Hopefully nobody else writes
1.
in. Leave it at 100%.
That's right. Yeah. I do appreciate your time. Continue doing what you do, and love to have you on here. Always good conversation. And love to have you back soon. Thanks, Reid.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for having me. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye. And that was Reid Wilkins from 630 Ched. Does Inside Sports. Obviously, great. Good to get a different opinion on on what's happening with the Oilers and the media and some of the stuff that I think really when you look at it is completely separate from the game itself. I mean, the Oilers have had one game in 15 days, so it's been kind of crazy. I'm going to have on here momentarily. I think he's logged in and ready, but I'm going to have Josh from ToughCallPod. He's part of the Heavy Hockey Network, and I mentioned him to Reid as somebody he should follow, somebody you should follow as well. You can find him at ToughCallPod on Twitter. Hey, Josh, you there? May or may not be there. There you are. There you are. Good. Good. Awesome. Good to see you. Yeah. Oh, no, it's all right. I just had you on mute, so nobody's heard you. But hey, thanks for joining. Interesting day in Oilers land. Yeah, I was just saying, like we've had one game in like 15 days, right? But it seems like every day there's whether it's something that has happened or hasn't happened, there's a lot of Oilers talk going on. I originally I had a whole different topic for Reid before he came on. We discussed a couple of topics. None of them had anything to do with Draisaitl and Jim Matheson, and while I'm happy that we got to talk about that, and you talk about the news of the day sort of thing, but there's other stuff going on, obviously, and not the least of which is the Oilers slump and the fact that they haven't done anything about it off ice so far. Yeah, so that's big news. By the way, I had you on mute there for a little bit, and Dash says he can read lips, and when you were on mute, he said he could read that you said you're Dash in the Park's biggest fan. So, there you go. There
My
you
secret
go. Yeah. Here, I want to give you a question because this is interesting. I put out there, like, I have made 1,000 empty promises in my head that I wouldn't be an Oilers fan, if they did this or if they did that, and agree with my takes or not, right? Like, there are things every fan has that they think the team should do, right? Like, I always, I don't think they should sign Evander Kane, and I'm in a, it's about a 50-50 split. Everybody's welcome to their opinion. Obviously, if you don't agree with me, you're wrong. But I think, like, there are people out there that said if they signed Evander Kane, they're going to stop watching the Oilers, right? And that's, like, there are people that do that. Do you think, in your mind, and this was a question I wanted to ask Reid, but I'm kind of curious. I want to get your take on it. Do you think that, Cates or anybody really gives a shit, like, if that's what fans are saying, or do you think it's just business as usual over at Oilers Entertainment Group? It's purely opinion, right? I mean, what's your thought?
I don't think they would care. I think they're going to do what they want and spin it in a way that tries to make it as positive as possible, no matter what. Whether it was something that happened by accident or something they had planned, something falls into their lap, they're going to spin it however they need to make it seem like it's a positive thing and a thing that they're in control of, which is fine. I don't mean to sound conspiratorial. That's just the way they're going to promote it or whatever. I don't think they're going to give in to a fan base, nor do I think they should, is the other aspect of it. Because like you said, the fans are split. There's a lot of odd opinions out there. There's a lot of people that would do things in a panic situation that necessarily shouldn't happen. And, Ken Holland may be an over-patient man, as we've talked about.
Yep.
But I think he is right. I think he should wait too long than pull a trigger or do something really crazy too quickly and then regret it. I do like that mentality. And I think they're going to do that no matter what fans say or what they demand, which I think honestly is the right thing, like I said.
Yeah. So I think it was Burke that said it. He said, or maybe it might have even been Chiarelli, and God help me if I'm quoting Chiarelli, but they said, he said, if, the GM that listens to the fans is going to be a fan himself soon enough, right? Yeah.
I can tell you as a coach, making roster decisions, if I'm trying to decide who's a healthy scratch and who isn't and all that, or if I should switch the lines up, or if somebody should play forward or defense, I'll take opinions and I'll ask around. But ultimately, if there's something that I really don't want to do, but I do it anyway, just because I know it will appease someone else, or, this is what they said, so I'll try it. If it doesn't work, those are the nights I can't sleep. Yeah. If I make a choice and it doesn't work, I can sleep like a baby knowing it was my decision. If I'm going to go down by that sword, it's going to be my own sword. But if I give in to pressure and I'm not sure, or I'm really not confident in something and I do it just because someone told me to, those are the ones that I just cannot let go and forget about. They eat at me. And of course, that's just coaching some junior team in Nova Scotia or whatever. So I can imagine being in charge of an NHL club, the pressure that's there. You want to make sure that if you're going down by your own decisions.
Yeah, 100%. The other thing is you're paying these guys, the GM, the coach, big money, right?
Yeah.
You're paying them to make a decision. So be steadfast on that, right?
Right.
Like we're not, you're not paying them to poll the fans and say what the fans think is right or wrong. You're paying them because you value their ability to make the right decisions for your club. Now,
yeah.
Obviously, I disagree with some of the decisions that have been made, but I've got I've got nothing I can say for sure. What's your
It's funny
gut?
you talked about not being a fan anymore, because I was having this debate a few years ago.
Yeah.
When is it okay to reject your team? When is it okay to switch teams? When are you not a flaky fan? And I'm looking at some of the things that the Oilers have done. And the philosophy I always loved was no matter what, they were always exciting. Even when they weren't winning that much, their style of play, their approach to the game was kind of run and gun. Let's make things happen. Let's be creative. Let's be entertaining. And for whatever reason, they just fell into a pitfall where it wasn't worth staying up to watch them anymore. As a fan of the East Coast, especially, man, it's a time commitment, and it just wasn't worth it. I was like, no, I'm not even going to bother, because I wasn't enjoying the product anymore. And then when you're not getting the results as well, it's like, at what point, when it's like culture and things, you believe in the identity of the team, you believe in the culture, you believe in their philosophy, so you stand behind them, whether they win or lose. But as soon as all of a sudden I didn't recognize the team anymore, there was nothing really there holding me there other than the fact that I want them to become the Oilers again. And, some people might feel like that's not a good enough reason to stick around. And some people would call them fair weather fans or whatever. But at the end of the day, you're committing your time and your money to a product.
That's the thing. I was actually going to talk about that, earlier. And one thing is there's so many places to spend your entertainment dollar right now.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's so many things out there. We got to stop talking about this true fan sort of nonsense, right? Like you're not a true fan if let's be real, right? Like, is it worth it to be so upset, right? Like when your team loses or they're in a tailspin like they are right now. And then still, you're not a true fan if you're not out buying jerseys or you're not. No, I mean, you know what? I might switch it the other way and say you're not a true fan if you're buying jerseys at that point in time, because you're not encouraging them to be better, right? Like, I mean, the only way that, like, to me, and that's why I asked the question, is, if the administration, the organization doesn't listen to how the fans are viewing the product, right? Whether they're leaving or staying. If they're not doing that, there's no accountability there for them to be any better, right? Like, in fact, why would you? Why not just be Arizona, right? Like, why not? If I mean, Toronto could field a really shitty team, and they did for a while, right? They could field a really shitty team, and they'd still have fans, and the team would still make money. But there's got to be a bit of accountability there, and I think at some extent there is, right? I think they're if they're doing their job, as any good business is, they're watching and seeing what's going on out there, and doing different things accordingly. There's work being done on the off ice product all the time, and very, very different things. Anyway, I was thinking about that today. I thought.
Well, something me and my brother talk about often is, what, we're encouraging new fans or younger fans that aren't really sure who their team is. Don't commit to one. Your team's not winning the Stanley Cup. There's too many good teams.
Yeah.
There's too many good players that deserve the cup. that they're not all going to win. So you can hope for a team and be behind them, but eventually your team's going to get knocked out. And what are you going to do? Not watch anymore? You got to follow somebody. So get to know a few other teams, pick your team Bs, and have it. And if your team falls apart, like the Oilers have been the last little while, it gives you something to look forward to and something else to watch.
Well, somebody brought up the Bengals, right? Like,
right.
I mean, there are Bengals fans out there, right?
Are there?
I mean, I think there are. I mean, there were Rough Riders fans, if you're a fan of the CFL, that were, Riders fans forever, right? And, I mean, it, I guess, it's just a matter of you could go your whole life without winning a cup, right? Like your team, right? I mean, you could be Vancouver, right? Like, I mean, that would be difficult. And I would suggest if you're a Canucks fan, and while I'd love to make fun of Canucks fans, but you can't. There's nothing on that team where you're expecting them to win a Stanley Cup in the next 2 to 10 years. Of course, now somebody's going to comment, I'm a homer. But a homer. I'm a homer, and I am. But the Canucks aren't likely to win, a Stanley Cup in the next 3 to 5 years, maybe. But there's still a lot of Canucks fans out there. Right?
Well, listen, I disagree with you on that, but you won't let anybody. So
That's right. right. Oh man, I'm just an asshole. What can I say?
There it is. It's all out in the open now.
Hey, Josh, tell me, you've had a number of videos on recently. Yeah. Lots seemingly going around the league. I'm just curious. Since you've started ToughCallPod, and for those that aren't familiar with what Josh is doing and will continue to do while he's part of the Heavy Hockey Network, is he acts as if he was the Department of Player Safety, and based on a system of punishment that you've created yourself, right, like suspensions, etc. You break down video of different plays in the league, and you assign a suspension, and you always refer back to your own system when you do that. If this was, the ToughCallPod, suspension rules, then, this would be a 2-gamer.
Yeah.
In your time that you've been doing this, do you think that because I was kind of thinking about this the other day, do you think that the players are getting any better, or is it like, does the league ever change in this regard? I mean, as much as, the what's the group that gets together to talk about safety for the players, like, do you think the players are learning anything? Are they getting any better? I mean, we put those stop signs on the back of our jerseys for a while, right?
Yeah.
I don't even know if they still do that in minor hockey. I think they do.
They do, absolutely.
Did that change anything?
It's just, when you're in the middle of the play, you don't go at someone and see a stop sign and stop mid-play because you're like, oh yeah, stop. But because it's there and so in your face all the other times, it just changes the way you think about the game. There was even at one point, there's some system you can get where you can actually color the 4 feet perimeter of the rink, the 4 foot mark between 4 foot away from the boards and the boards. So if you're in that danger zone, you act a little smarter. And if you look down and your feet are colored. Yeah. Now, I've never played in a rink like that, but I've seen it. There's little things like that are things people are trying to do to make minor hockey players think differently about it. And do I think the NHL has changed anything? I think they have. I think they have the capacity to change more, and they need to change more. They just don't want to. The players are very, very smart. They changed the 2-line pass rule. Do you think anybody was really offside after the first week anymore? No, they learned how to take advantage of it. They adapted to a stretch pass. They're very smart about it. They took away the 2-line pass. They changed the offside rule. They changed hybrid icing. They changed the standard on obstruction. They've now changed the standard on cross-checking finally after years, even though it's not being called very strictly.
not at all.
But here's the problem with that. It was like offside rule is, as much as I hate the reviews and they should never, well, that's a whole other topic. But anyway, it's kind of a clear rule. Icing is a clear rule. They call it fairly consistently. Players know what to expect. Obstruction, they call that consistently. Players know what to expect. They've made changes. They don't reach anymore. They use body position. But
nobody's getting hurt on an icing call anymore, right?
Well,
I mean, it's not happening very often.
Because they're now, it's very, players adapt. Now they're trying to win that race to get position and win the puck. They're not only, I mean, back when I played, honest to God, people would dump the puck in and you wouldn't want to be first. You let the other guy get there so that you could be the guy to pace them. It was embarrassing and I wanted the puck. So I'd go get the puck and take my chances. Yeah. But there's some guys that would never, ever be first. And it was ridiculous. Now they don't have that anymore, but players, when it's not an icing, still go in with that mentality. It's kill or be killed. So when you look at the two rules, where I'm going with this is you look at the two rules that are the least clear, the most poorly written, are goaltender interference and illegal check to the head. They are brutally written and the players don't understand what they're doing wrong when they get called. It's not that they want to hit people in the head. It's that they're not sure how to not hit people in the head, because when you look at other rules like charging, you are allowed to leave your feet when you throw a check as long as it's sideways. You are allowed to run someone from behind into the boards as long as you don't board them. The second the hit becomes too violent, they call boarding. Yeah. Because it's based on force of hit. So you're not telling them to hit differently or not hit at all or look for something else. You're just saying hit as much as you want until it's too much, then we're going to call it. So what's stopping them from hitting? Yeah. And same thing with the legal check to the head. You can hit. I want you to hit there.
Now you must have had this conversation a million times. The people that are going to tell you, "Hey, Josh, look, like this is whatever they want to say. We're not going to play atom hockey, right? Like this is a hitting league, right? Like people
of course it's a hitting league." You're right. I hear that all the time. It's checking. What do you want? If you call that, there will be no hitting it up. It's always the extreme. If I call one penalty, shut the whole thing down. You might as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't get
it.
Hey,
we'd love just one penalty, by the way, in Oilers land.
The mandate when George Barros was hired as the Department of Player Safety, and I'm not here to criticize the Department of Player Safety. I'm here to promote a different way of looking at hockey. I'm not here to say this is what they should be doing. I'm saying this is what I do. So I want to make that clear. I don't have any problem with the way they're calling things because that's what the league wants. So when he was hired, he said the mandate of the Department of Player Safety is to keep physicality in the game. That's our mandate. Not to keep the players safe, not to reduce instances of concussions, not to change the way players think, to keep physicality in the game. And when they were going to introduce the checking to the head rule, the GMs were not even just split. It was majority say, no, we don't want a blanket rule for checking from the head because we're afraid players will be too afraid to hit at all. That's their number one priority is to have hitting. They need physicality. They need violence. Berkey said it himself once that they want the temperature of the game to stay hot so that players will get angry enough to smash each other and fight. And you can't call the rule book and have that happen. That's the problem. They need their on-ice product to be different than every other product. So they want the violence and physicality. So do I think players have changed? A little bit. They're trying to do different things now with their sticks and the cross-checking, and players are just getting better consistently all around as well. So there's less of an inclination to do those things. But the NHL is certainly not doing as much as they need to or want to make them change. Because as I said, the other rules, when players are told clearly and concisely what to do, they can switch in a heartbeat and it moves on. And these are not moving on.
So I've never asked you, I mean, what's your motivation behind this? Like what's, if the NHL were to give you a call tomorrow and say, "Hey Josh, we really like what you've been doing." Like what are you hoping to accomplish, right? Like, what would you hope to accomplish? Would the sole motivation be safety?
Well, I think that it would make a better product. That's what I think. I'm not even like my main concern is the safety of the players. We see too much about their lives outside the game and after the game, what's going on with their lives and their mental health.
Yeah.
So that has to stop. But where people get me wrong is they think that I want to take hitting out or I want to call all head contact. No, I just want to call avoidable head contact. And most of my suspensions, I looked at, I think my year-end review last year, I had like 4 times as many fines and suspensions as the actual NHL. But over 60% of them were for cross checks to the face, spearing, and checking from behind.
Yeah. Those
are not wishy-washy, tick-tacky things that, you could look at a hit and go, oh, well, he didn't mean to get him in the head. These are cross checks to the face after the whistle that have nothing to do with hockey or the play of hockey. There's so many little things that they let go in the name of letting the players police themselves or keeping the physicality in the game
management. Yeah.
that they have the wrong kind of physicality. And I think we'd see more hits like Romanoff in Montreal, the hits that he makes. I think we'd see way more of those types of legal, solid, hard body checks. The one Marchand threw the other night was beautiful. There was another one very similar, a player coming around behind the net in a different game that was almost an identical check. Those are fantastic things to see. But then we have the problem of people going and looking for it. Like there was one I suspended recently. Everybody was talking about it where he actually jumped over the puck to throw the hit. And that's just... So those things to me are like, as a coach, I'm looking at that going, what are you taking yourself out of the play for to make that hit?
Yeah.
When you've already got the puck. Those are the little things that I think if players were more puck focused, we'd see more skilled plays. We'd see more entertainment.
Yeah.
We'd see more scoring chances.
Yeah. Hard to disagree with that. I think, well, I'm sure people disagree with it anyway, but so the question everybody's dying because they know how you look at this game. We're all wanting to know here as Oilers fans, is Connor McDavid really a dirty player?
No, he's not. They are not.
He's been suspended like a fair bit.
And you want to talk about what you say about players changing? Yeah, they've changed, but they've changed for the worse. You got guys like Barzal and McDavid. If you're calling them dirty, it's because they have to, because they know that players can do what they want.
Here.
So you have to take a stand sometime.
Yeah.
It's not being dirty. It's doing what you need to do to survive within the culture that the NHL has created on purpose to put these guys in a position where they have to do that.
Yeah, that might be the most true statement, right? Like a guy like Connor, there's no doubt he knows every Dash comments. Michael running McDavid out of town again. You media people, honestly.
My boy Dash.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, your favorite. Oh man, I'll tell you, where were?
Well, you know what was the funniest thing I heard?
Now I'm totally off. I forget where I was going.
At the start of the year, the funniest thing ever, when they got Wayne Simmons, and it was the game against Montreal, I think, and it was one of Simmons' first games, and he got in a fight, and they ended up coming back and winning that game, and everyone was praising Simmons for this and that. And at one point in the game, Matthews went and cross-checked. I can't remember who the Canadian was that he fought, but Matthews cross-checked the player in the third period. And it was after the fight and after all the things that were supposed to have happened. Matthews went out of his way to skate after him and cross-check him. And somebody said, oh, look, Matthews would never have done that without Simmons on the team. And I'm thinking, I thought Simmons was there to protect Matthews, not to make it so Matthews could go aggravate and then hide while Simmons fought his battles for him. It just struck me as so funny that the role that they thought, oh, look, Matthews is very tough now. Why is he doing that? Why isn't he just scoring goals? Like, I don't get it. But it's because he has to do. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's...
Yeah. I mean, you give us some interesting things to talk about. Obviously, I'm a fan. That's why we're happy to have you on the Heavy Hockey Network. You continue to do great things. We're going to do some new things with you, hopefully over the next little while, and kind of maybe up what you're doing over at ToughCallPod and aggregate some of what you do and have it over at the Heavy Hockey site and get those things online. I've always, as I've kind of said over and over again, I've always loved seeing your take on something. The interesting parts to me, like when you're looking at it, you're dialing down to direction of skates, and you go right from the start of the play, and it's really worth for anybody who's new to Tough Call Pod. Just follow him on Twitter for one at ToughCallPod, and you'll be able to find all the YouTubes and everything. And shortly, we're going to, as soon as I get my act together, we're going to get all these also on the Heavy Hockey YouTube site, so people can find it quite easily. We're just about out of time. Tonight, not a great night for Edmonton. Just on the standing side, right?
Yeah.
Nashville did us no favors, losing to the Canucks. The Jets got a point in OT, loser point. And the Flames, who were on a downward slide, managed to knock off the Panthers and their second string goalie, I might add.
Yes.
Yeah. It's got to get some benefit out of that, but they actually trounced them 5-1. So yeah, not much good. And right now the Lightning and the Kings are tied going into the second, so not much good happening for the Oilers. Nothing's happened. We haven't even talked about this, but nothing's happened since what most people agree is probably the worst loss for Edmonton in this whole stretch. This Ottawa, and it's not. And it's not just that it's Ottawa, a 30th place team, but it's how they lost, right? It's all the other little things around the team, first goal in, et cetera, right? Like all of these different things. What's your feeling on playoffs?
I don't know. I really don't know. It's very possible. There's no reason they shouldn't do it. I still, sorry, I believe in this roster still. Sorry about that. Sorry to be a positive fan.
No, you know what? I believe in the roster. I think the roster is right. I haven't hid the fact that I think they need different coaching for this roster. But
when you look at how the roster is being used, it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating to see players that are having a good game not get the opportunities, not be tried in new places, not start to feel good about themselves. That's my concern. The playoffs are very obtainable if they just decide, which is not easy. I'm not saying it's easy. You can't just decide you're going to win. What I think they need to decide is that they need to be happy about being in that locker room. It just sort of go the old cliche, ridiculous mantra of one game at a time. And you don't have to win every one of those games. You just have to get better every game and start to put a pattern together. You can't try something and have it fail and then flip a switch the next day and try something new. You have to pick something and believe in it and go for it. And I mean, you can make tweaks and try new lines and things, don't get me wrong, but you have to kind of have a pattern and get these guys. I think someone said it, I think might be even Leon Draisaitl said it. You want to be able to get into a rhythm. You want to get into a flow. And he's excited to start playing some games again because they'll be able to get into a routine. And there's a lot to be said for that.
Yep.
You know, that's another one of those struggles that you don't know how much that's weighing on them. And maybe something will be different once they play a few games in a row and get a road trip and get some, have some fun or have something happen that makes them come together. So the playoffs, I'm still hopeful. I'm still excited about the prospect of playoffs. But what I'm not excited about, I'm almost dreading that they're going to go the same way for the same reasons as the last couple of playoffs. And I tell you, when I was watching the Winnipeg series last year, I was like, I don't even want them to win. I don't want them to win anymore because I don't want to watch this kind of hockey anymore or what's happening right now. And it's not going to be sustainable for 4 playoff series. So they may as well just get, like, I don't even want to turn my TV on. That's what I'm dreading. Because once they get on a streak and start winning, everyone's going to be, oh, this is great and it's fluffy and it doesn't really matter why they're winning anymore as long as they're winning. So, and I hope whatever happens, I hope they start winning for the right reasons, and they stick with it come playoff time.
Yeah. They. I'm. Look, I'm in the same boat. I like this roster. I think they're capable. Obviously, they're capable, right? The way they came out of the gates, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're capable. The injuries have been a bit of a problem. Maybe they exposed a little bit of depth. Hopefully, Perlini is all right after the practice incident today.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, as many an analyst has pointed out in years prior, it's hard to overtake teams in order to get those playoff spots. And right now we're sitting 4 positions back of a wild card spot with Vancouver's win. Now Vancouver obviously has some games in hand, but the other key to that though is Vancouver's trending upward. We're not, and also the crazy thing is the schedule is going to be that much harder for teams like Edmonton that are sitting with 4 or 5 games back. There's going to be some back-to-backs there. I guess if that rhythm is to be believed, they're going to have a chance to really get a rhythm together. So I'm just not hopeful. I thought they had a chance the other day to make some changes. You've broken down the schedule. We're going to go through that into games that they are must wins and the record they need in order to make the playoffs. We'll work on that together and see if we can't get that published on heavyhockey.com. And for those watching, please go to youtube.com/heavyhockey. Hit the subscribe button and leave a comment, good or bad. Most of them have been bad. No, that's not true. I've had a few enjoyable ones. Or follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Oilers podcast or twitch.com/heavyhockey. Lots of places you can find us. As I do always when I do the show, I let my guest have the last word of the night, as you know, and you get to say good night. I've got no more to say. In fact, I would say I've learned something from the feedback tonight, and I let my guests do most of the talking tonight. So a little pat on the back for Michael. Like I can learn. You can teach an old dog new tricks. So there you have it. Thanks again, Josh, and thanks to Reid for joining earlier and giving us some insight in the media and all those little things that happen around the team. Now off to you for the last word, and as always, don't forget to say goodnight. Once you say that, I'll hit the end screen and we're out of here.
All right. I will say this. When I see people throw jerseys on the ice in different places and boo when their team's power play isn't going so well and things like that, it's it's fair enough to do that. But after a certain point, we've done that to the Oilers. We've harped on them. We've offered a million suggestions about what's wrong. When the team is this down, that's when they need a cheer the most. So if they get on the ice and they start playing poorly, maybe we should give them all a standing ovation. Maybe just really lay heavy with the honey. Be kind to them on social media. Let them know that we support them. And maybe, just maybe, that might get them going. And maybe a little positivity right now is what this team needs. Good night.
Oilerslive